Hello, Kardak Radio Facebook page. We are here on Sunday night, October 13th, 2019. We are so happy to be with you again tonight. And again, this is our regular Sunday evening, at least on some parts of the world. We do have listeners from all around the world. We start at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, 4 o'clock afternoon Pacific Time, all time zones in between, all time zones around the world. But we've had people listening from Australia, where it's in the morning right now, to Europe, to everywhere. So I welcome all the listeners to our Kardak Radio Facebook page. I also have a live stream on Facebook on Wednesday nights, I should say, same time. But it's on a different Facebook page. It's called Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us. I invite everyone to join that Facebook page so you too can see. I have alternate, not the same, but I have different programs. Plus, all of these programs that I do, I put them on YouTube channel and BitChute channel. So please share this program to other Facebook sites. Go to YouTube or BitChute channels. Sign up to them. Hit the bell. Be notified when you have and comment and share. I've had a lot of comments lately on my videos, and I welcome every one of them. So welcome everybody to the program. Now tonight, what are we talking about? Of course, we're bringing to you another about Spiritism. That's why I have here up on my video Allan Kardec, who is the codifier of Spiritism. And I just wanted to again remind everyone, please, if you know of anyone or if you haven't seen it, if you are a member of Netflix, go see the Kardec movie. It's a wonderful movie. It explains how he codified Spiritism, what happened to him. He was more of a teacher, a scientist, very scientific point of view, and from his own discovery, because he said, I'm not sure about this at first. He became convinced that there is a spirit world out there. And of course, I have been convinced too, through other methods than Kardec, but what I've read with Kardec, it just answered my question. It's just marvelous. So Allan Kardec, and so read his Spirits book. You can get it on PDF. That's how I got mine. So tonight, what are we talking about? We're talking about the effects of past lives and what they can do to you in different areas. And tonight we're talking about the problems of addiction coming from past lives. Now, what I've been talking about in the last several months is all in my book. The Problem is the Solution: 7 Life Complications Sent to Test and Teach You. Because really, at the summary of it all is when we go through tough times in life, they're not meant as punishment. When you have trials and tribulations, those are tasks given to you for your own edification. That is why they are there. I would say 99.9% of these things that happen to you are all been pre-planned for you before you were born. So let that sink in for a second. The kids you have, the wife or husband you have, they're all mostly been pre-planned. I'm sure there certainly are deviations from the planning that these things happen. But most of the things that happen to you are there. Our life is predetermined. Now, that is a lot to get your mind around of. And believe me, that was my great epiphany when I discovered Spiritism, because I was always believing that, no, I made my own choices, random events happen. You never know. It was a chaotic world out there. And to many of us, it still appears to be so. But when I was told of things to come with such specificity, the probability of that being, it could be possible, but the probability was so low, I had to discover what caused it. And that's how I discovered Spiritism is that, yes, there is previous lives, there is karma, there is reincarnation, there is a spirit world. And why are we on earth? I finally learned that. I must have asked that question all the time in my teens and my 20s. And I finally found out we're here to be educated. We're here to become better spirits. Now, let's get through the subject at hand. I've kept you waiting long enough. Addiction. We're going to talk about how that affects us from previous lives. Now, Let's talk about addiction. Addiction to the point of losing control of yourself and following what you crave, even though you know it is wrong, is a type of behavior that is covered in what I'm talking about tonight. There are many reasons for getting trapped into desiring a substance that is bad for you, from genetic inheritance, family situations, chronic pain, tragic circumstances, to everyday life are all valid reasons for a person seeking escape than being trapped into a spiral of dependency. There are many better and more qualified books which explain the physical and mental aspects of addiction than my book. The problem is the solution. Additionally, there are numerous publications and support groups which will assist you in getting spiritual help to enable you to contemplate your life and ask for help from God in the spirit world. What I'm talking about tonight, I only explore a small range of factors which could have caused this type of behavior to occur. My goal is to point out the spiritual background which may contribute to a person's current problem. And by spiritual background, I mean behind the scene factors such as previous life on a better planet, or spirits who are around us and seek to influence us. These elements may or may not be useful to you in seeking the root cause and supplying the strength to climb out of a deep hole. So let's talk about one. One of the main one people get addiction is life is too horrible to contemplate. Boy, I understand that. There are many reasons to want to separate yourself from this planet. It is, and all the spirits know this is a cruel and horrible place at times. The fact is reinforced if you constantly view the latest news. The majority of citizens on Earth are used to the brutal aspects of our daily life. As I said before, we live on an expiatory world, a world where we must pay for our past wrongs, a world where immature souls are placed in a learning situation full of good and bad people, so that we may recognize wicked behavior when we see it. We're here for a purpose. Living on our little sphere are beings who have lived on better worlds along with us, planets without hunger, without violence, without bad spirits, and without incarnates amongst them to demonstrate the ugly side of life. In the book, The Gospel According to Spiritism, which, by the way, is a great book, I recommend everyone read that, by Allan Kardec. It's one of his 5 main books. St. Augustine, in spirit, tells us of a segment of those who are here from an advanced world, why they are here, and how it affects them. And this may be someone you recognize. Spirits undergoing expiation are foreigners there, if we may so express ourselves. They have already lived on other worlds, from which they were banished because they persisted in evil, and because they were a cause of disturbance to the good inhabitants. They have been regulated to living for a time among less advanced spirits, which is us. And since they carry with them their developed intelligence and the seed of acquired knowledge, they have the mission of helping them advance. This is why punished spirits are found in the midst of the most intelligent peoples. Having more sensitivity, the miseries of life are bitterer to them because sufferings bruise them more deeply than they bruise the primitive peoples, whose moral sense is more obtuse. So, people like me who have probably been on this earth and trying to climb my way out of all the wrongs I've done, I'm used to the cruelty of earth. My intuition, my instinct, my conscience has all been formed by living on first a primitive planet and then this chaotic planet called Earth. So when things go wrong, it's like, oh, things went wrong. But imagine if you were on this wonderful planet of regeneration where there is no hate and envy, and then you came to Earth where it's full of hate and envy, unfairness, injustice, everything, cruelty, everything is there. Imagine what you would feel. It's like you went to a school where everyone was nice and loving, and then you had to go to this horrible school where there was bullies all around and you couldn't learn, and people, ripped your pages out of your books. it would make you extremely depressed and despondent. Well, these people, lacking the recent conditioning of living in a rough environment, these poor souls are ill prepared for life on our world. They have grown accustomed to solving arguments in a civilized fashion, to dealing with each other honorably, never seeing extreme hunger or want. They are thrust upon a world in chaos, must be completely disorienting to the pitiful spirits who, by their behavior, merited the discipline of being born amongst us. Imagine living in a refined society when suddenly all the edifices you knew and depended upon were destroyed. Your enlightened friends replaced by boorish brutes. Instead of cultivated gardens and majestic towers, you're now forced to look upon junkyards and slums built of unsurfaced bricks and used weather-beaten wood. With the abruptness of being, let's say, a W amputee, one moment whole, the next shattered, who wouldn't desire to retreat into a fog, opting to lose all recognition of their surroundings, fleeing their own reality for as long as possible? Unfortunately, addiction under these circumstances is perfectly comprehensible. Unfortunately, it's not allowable. To learn and to assist, one must be lucid, alert, and ready. Now, unfortunately, we live on a planet that is full of other spirits. We live on the umbrellas. Chico used to say the umbrella starts at your nose. There are ignorant spirits all around us, and those spirits who were themselves were addicts, drunks, or whatever, may feed our addiction. Remember, spirits, high and low, are constantly in touch with us, and our thoughts are influenced by their thoughts that radiate into our minds. One of the aims of our training by living life after life is for us to learn to filter out the less desirable inspirations. Unbeknownst to us, are spirits who wish to live vicariously through our actions and emotions. Many spirits who wander the lower zones, or the umbra, as it is called in Portuguese, attach themselves to feel the missed sensations when they are in a body. There is an example of this in the book Sex and Destiny by the spirit Andre Luis, psychographed by Francisco Chico C. Xavier. Andre Luis is in a home where he notices an older man, Claudio, sitting in a chair after he had returned home from a hard day at work. This is what the book says. Right in front of us, the two unfortunate discarnates approached Claudio unceremoniously. One of them put his hand on Claudio's shoulder and shouted instantly, "Drink, my friend, I need a drink." His raspy voice may have hurt our sensitive ears, but Claudio could not hear a single sound. He went on reading undisturbed. Nevertheless, even if his physical eardrums had not registered the order, his mental wave band was attuned to the intruder. The inappropriate guest repeated the order several times like a hypnotist who wants an order obeyed. The result was not long in coming. The man stopped reading the political editorial that had engrossed him so much. He could not explain his sudden lack of interest. "Drink, drink," was told by the spirit. Claudio finally accepted the suggestion, convinced that he felt like having a shot of whiskey solely for himself. His thoughts had suddenly changed, like a power plant whose current is switched in a different direction because it is needed elsewhere. Drink, drink, and the thirst for alcohol took complete control of his mind and took shape. The pituitary mucosa became excited, as if it were more strongly impregnated with the pungent smell floating in the air. The malicious spirit scratched Claudio's throat lightly, and he became restless. An indefinable dryness affected his larynx. He wanted to feel calmer. The cunning, uninvited guest perceived that his victim had given in to the suggestion and latched onto him. A light touch at first, then an enveloping embrace, followed by a full embrace and reciprocal association. So, what do they mean by full embrace? I mean, a spirit almost goes into our body, right, and feels the sensations that you are feeling. And that spirit desired his portion of the taste and effect of alcohol. He practically merged his spirit body into Claudio's physical body so he too could enjoy the whiskey. Imagine the number of expired alcoholics, drug abusers of all sorts who died prematurely. When they pass on from the physical world, They don't suddenly become sober, rational, and upright individuals. They are the same longing for the same drink or drug of their choice. Many lost souls finally realize the physical reason for addiction are no longer present. The problem is their mental longing, their habit of turning to their addiction as the answer to their problems. This doesn't end after death. Therefore, they seek out individuals to feed their need. The longing a person feels may be false. It may be implanted by spirits who wish to take part in the experience. This is why, this is so unfortunate. Once a person becomes an addict, it is very hard to stop. Not only does one have to overcome their physical and emotional dependency, but there is a legion of spirits bombarding the poor individual who urges to return to that addiction. I believe this is why places like Alcoholics Anonymous have shown results. The effort to become more spiritual and in touch with God is the linchpin for success. In fact, a study reference in the Wikipedia site about Alcoholics Anonymous states that there is an association between an increase in attendance to AA meetings with increased spirituality and a decrease in the frequency and intensity of alcohol use. So I believe understanding our position with God and recognizing that we are on earth under the ever-loving presence of Jesus, who is responsible for us on earth, is the first step to realize that we are not alone and abandoned, but part of a bigger plan. And there has been other proof on this. There has been studies done that will show that the person involved with spirituality will become better. That is a study done on Brazilian Spiritist psychiatric hospitals, and they will blend psychiatry with spiritual help, and they'll also have medium meetings to find out if there are other spirits affecting that poor addict. And in fact, their rate of recovery is much higher than anyone else's because the person's working on their spiritual and their emotional and physical. So it's a combination, right? They'll still give them some psychotropic drugs if they need that, but they combine it with everything, which again, I believe that is so important to put the spirit world and Jesus into your life. And when a person begins to focus on repairing their spiritual makeup, they start to filter out their baser intentions. And that's not to mean anybody's going to be a saint, but they start making progress. And as they improve little by little, two things first start to happen. First, spirits looking for their type of excitement lose interest in a person free of desiring self-destruction, and they begin to search for others. Second, the spirit world, who is always watching us, take notice and they begin to lend assistance. So one might ask, why don't they always try to help? The answer is they do, particularly when a person first begins to descend into trouble. But the spirituality in its infinite wisdom allows us free will. If we are hell-bent on something, we shall be allowed to do it. Only later will that person realize the wrongs committed must be rectified in the later life. But once there are signs of a determined choice to improve, resources from the spirit world will be put at the recovering addict's disposal. His or her effort to climb out of the rut they build will be reinforced and encouraged, although there's always a legion of ill-intentioned spirits who actively fight any path towards enlightenment. Alcoholics Anonymous also has a brilliant idea of a sponsor, a person helping the recovering addict. I believe the sponsor acts as a screen to help the person being influenced to focus on constructive thoughts and deny the urges to flee back into the old comfortable routine. It may be that at one life or another, we've all lived combating an addiction of some sort. It is probably an experience we must suffer through in order to learn the pitfalls of that condition, so we never let it get the best of us again. Without living through the pain and anguish, we won't have the certainty placed in our instincts to avoid that trap altogether. And we can't go wrong by listening to our conscience, right? The book of divine rules and its interpretation built up during many lives, and our instincts. Our instincts have been honed by thousands, if not millions of years of actual frontline experience. Both our conscience and instincts are the only two carryovers we are allowed to take from our previous existences. So we need to value our conscience and our instinct. We need to value their judgment and not allow ourselves to rationalize away their verdicts on our actions. It is never too late to listen and act upon good advice, especially coming from within. Above all else, we must keep moving forward, attempting to improve inch by inch, and not to let the vicissitudes of normal life throw us off course. Now, we know that life is not easy. Every time I say something, I feel like, well, I'm making it too easy. And people, well, he can say that. Well, yes. And therefore, I understand that just being spiritual and one step at a time and fighting your addiction is extremely hard. And look, at some time or another, we would all like to give up and escape our situation. We wouldn't be human if we didn't think of the easy way out. It's important to remember that when we wish to give up or deaden our pain through alcohol or drugs, we do so frequently because we are afraid of what is coming next. And we may be fearful of some great calamity, such as running out of money or facing a failed relationship, or the worst fear of all, nothing, just boredom. The great nothing, the dreading of continuing on like we have done before. Nothing new on the horizons, no places to explore, no friends to enjoy it with, all reasonable worries. In the book, Spiritual Wisdom, Missives of Hope, we are told by the Spirit, Andre Louise, that everything, and that includes numbing boredom with our life, is a trial. Each episode includes a lesson, and that we must soldier on. This is what was said in the book. Do not be afraid, just have faith, says the Lord. Believe in harmony, justice, truth, and goodness. We are free under the protection of watchful laws. God does not excuse himself. Therefore, whatever happens to us is always the best we are capable of receiving. In many instances, the unexpected infirmity of the body is an anticipated assistance to the need of the soul. The deserting affection is an amputation in the emotional world, so we may survive through the most useful works we may be performing. The thwarted wish is providence against invisible danger. The organic inhibition is an obstacle to the use of our energies in non-constructive tasks. Financial losses are short notices so we may not fall into irredeemable debts. Immaterial penury is a challenge so we may be encouraged to work. Do not be despondent in the trials that life has brought you. Earth is a schooling opportunity in whose lessons all of us are both students and examiners of each other. If you feel that you're being overwhelmed by the siege of many problems today, yet, if you tend to the instructions of love, which trace the right path between humility and service, you will find in the exact location, in the exact course of action that leads to the solution of everything. However, for such an accomplishment, you must not stay in the corner of inertia, collecting stones and thorns that may weigh your heart down or wound your soul. Forget all that has been sadness or imbalance and embrace the system of edifying action that renews our destinies. All individuals who have fought and won, all who have fallen in the shadows and risen again toward the light, suffering, struggling, building, and renewing, have never stopped working. So what are they telling us? We can't give up. If we drop out, if we give up, we solves nothing. It only means that in the next life, we shall have to re-experience that which we so detested. Better to persevere, better to work on our attitude than to work on escaping, for there is no escape, no running away. We are physically unable to flee from the spirit world, for that is our true home and our universe. In other words, keep plugging away, survive day to day, and think of the light at the end. The wonderful feeling when all of this has been successfully accomplished. Others have strived, but the effort was too much and felt ready to give up. Again, in the same book, Spiritual Wisdom, Missives of Hope, Chico Xavier writes of a young man who told others in the mediums meeting that he felt overwhelmed. His trials were too difficult. He could not find the inner strength to continue. He believed that he had signed up for an impossible task and could not decipher how he could surmount his problems. The man was answered in a message by Andre Louis. Here's what he was told. Let us ponder on the list below in the interim. You do not experience organic obstacles. You do not face inner conflicts. You live exempt from temptations. You experience an environment of immutable peace. You do not have troubling members in the family. You do not face obstacles at home. You do not encounter disagreements within your social group. You do not enter into conflicts with demanding friends. You have never experienced loneliness. You travel the world without a worry. You have not handled crises of a personal nature. You have never felt the presence of despondency or affliction next to you. You do not have to make an effort to keep your friends. You do not meet with adversaries in the tasks that life has reserved for you. You work without criticism of others who might issue remarks and expose your spirit to discussions and disharmony at your heart towards needed renovation now and again. If any item on this list of trials is unfamiliar to you, you are elsewhere from your path to evolution. These events happen because it is precisely through problems and struggles that we accomplish the victories of the soul here on earth. Remember that human beings would not actually understand the voice of a luminous high spirit alone. Therefore, without listening to the words from individuals who share their experiences with us and receiving their cooperation, it would not be possible for any of us to make an effort towards our evolution. So, we are being told that our problem is the solution. And when he said human beings would not actually understand the voice of a luminous high spirit alone, people always ask me, well, why doesn't God reveal himself? And I answer, well, let's take, for instance, God comes down and says, I am God. And here's some what you think miracles, but I know they're not miracles. But because Spiritism said there are no miracles, there's things we don't understand. But here's things that you don't understand right now, and only you would think that God could do. So I'm God. Now, we all know what would happen. God would leave, and within 6 months to a year, maybe sooner, people go, was that mass hysteria? Because I don't know if that was true. Are you sure? People would start rationalizing away what happened, and they think, well, no, I can get away with this. I still want to cheat people and get money, right? Not everybody, but there'd be a good portion. It wouldn't work. It doesn't work. It's like, and anyone who's a parent knows this, or even your friends that have been difficult in the past, is you tell a friend or you tell your kid over and over again, if you do, this will happen. Of course, what happens? They do it. They do it because they don't believe you or because they wanted to and they think they can be different. Until each one of us learns within ourselves the hard way, we are very stubborn, us humans here on Earth, and probably any souls in other planets. We have to learn the hard way. This is why the spirits who communicate to us many times will say that pain is the great teacher. Isn't that sad to say that pain is a great teacher? But it's true. So, hence, the distressing events in our life are meant as teaching moments. From each episode, there's another nugget to be found. As gold miners swirl around the pan to find small gold flakes amongst the sand and dirt, we too must analyze our trials. We need to separate our emotional responses, discarding our feelings of victimhood, and let the actual proceedings guide us to decode what lessons was presented and how we should improve. So, addiction is a trial that many suffer with, a trial that is given because we need to learn something by living through it. The spirit world is telling us that we must arm our mind and character to withstand temptation from all fronts, and that includes our own feelings and emotions. And remember, this has been said in many times, and actually it's in this great book, Memoirs of a Suicide, when they were discussing people who committed suicide, and then they said, okay, now, for you who are suicide, remember, there was always a solution to your problem. It could have been next week, next month, next year. But the spirit world does not create trials and tribulation in which there is no escape. Granted, sometimes escape is death, as leaving the world. But there is always an end to any trial you have. The trials aren't meant to beat you down and punish you. They are meant to have you learn. And this is the important thing. If we go through previous trials or previous life, and we're in the spirit world is nice. They always try to give us information and try to teach us things in the nice manner, right? Just like a teacher will say, oh, or a parent will say to a child, I think you should do this. But then when they keep doing something wrong, it's like, okay, I'm taking away your computer, or I'm doing your allowance or whatever. The punishment, in order for them to concentrate and focus their minds, becomes harsher and harsher, not because you want it to be, but because you owe it to that person and the world to civilize the person you're trying to help. The spirit world's doing the same. When we become an elevated spirit, we'll have so much power. We'll have the power of thought. And there's no way that spirit world could allow us amongst the galaxy, being these envious, hateful, jealous, gossipy people that we now are on Earth. That's not going to happen. They can't do that. So only by elevating our character, concentrate on loving and assisting others, and enlisting the help of the spirit world to clear the road for inner growth, can we ensure success. And don't worry, this will not be something that will happen overnight. It will not be something that will happen rapidly. This is going to take many, many lifetimes, not just years, but lifetimes. But in this lifetime, we can all start. So I hope this has helped everybody. I'd like to have everyone also know that if you would like to learn more about Spiritism, go to my website, nwspiritism.com. Again, that is nwspiritism.com. And you can go to the site spiritismstudy.org. You can get an appointment with myself or some other person that will help you with Spiritism. I've done that. In fact, I just talked to a person from Australia last week, and we will talk. I'll send you my WhatsApp link or my Skype link, and we can get we'll get a time to talk, and it will just be unstructured as you wish, and we'll help you explore Spiritism. Nothing you have to do. We'll just see what's best for you. So I want to remind everyone again, now, if you'd also like to learn more about Spiritism and the spirit world around us, is start checking out my book. It talks about it's a series of 3 books, Heaven and Below, book 1 of Spiritism, which talks about heaven, talks about Jesus in heaven, talks about the lower zone, talks about the dark abyss. Then my second book is Spirits in the Spirit Universe. And it tells you the power of spirits, how we learn, how we go through different educational levels. Believe me, when you go to heaven, you don't stop going to school. You're always there. That's why it's so important for us to be intellectually curious. They want that same attribute, and you are the same when you pass over in heaven too. So it's Spirits in the Spirit Universe. And book 3 of my trilogy is How We Are Guided by Spirits. So I would suggest you get all 3 books. It will help you immensely. Now, for those who want to increase their Spiritism here on Earth, I would recommend, and this is kind of a step-by-step guide for us, for those, and this is from a poem by Andre Louis, 24 verses, very short verses. I go through each one, and it tells you what we need to accomplish in each step. And it tells my interpretation of what the spirits want us to be, and then from other spirits' works, how we can achieve that state. And you don't need to read my books. You can read the Spirits book, the Gospel According to Spiritism, books by Chico Xavier, books by Yvonne Pierre, Reverend Jiva Owen, any way that can help you in this. And if you'd like to email me and say, well, I don't like, this type of books. That's why I wrote my books. I wrote them because each person has different ways of learning and different things they're comfortable with. By the way, I also have How to Live Inner Peace Through Spiritism on audio. So some people like that. So now I have audio books for that one. My other book, The 7 Tenets of Spiritism. And I'm working on the first book, Heaven and Below. I'm working on that audio book now. So I'm trying to help people by any method they can to learn about Spiritism. Again, and I can recommend other mediums, right? Who psychograph Chico Xavier. You can't go wrong with almost any of his books. Henri Louis series is wonderful. So please, I encourage everyone to study for yourself. And I cannot express enough how much, when you understand what the spirit world wants for us to do and why we're on earth, it just lifts this stress and anxiety from you, and you go through life much more understanding what's happening to yourself, and sometimes more importantly what's happening to your family and to your friends and the whole world. That's why when you look at Spiritism, and if you get anxious about politics or whatever's happening, don't be. Don't. This is all, politics is like, if you followed politics, like who's going to run for the student body president, it means nothing. It's us here on earth. It's people becoming better people. That's what means something. The rest, this whole atmosphere we're going through, is just us learning what not to do in a plan of regeneration. It's learning not to be corrupt. It's learning not to be a demagogue. It's learning not to force people to do things, not to be a dictator like the dictator of North Korea, or be like communist China, where we are watching everybody and we're punishing people for saying bad things about the government. Right. It's none of that. It's for us to learn to become better people. Those people who persist in that type of behavior will not be part of the planet of regeneration, in which this planet shall become, and in which many spiritists, and I agree with that, we are just in the first stages of transitioning from a planet of atonement to a planet of regeneration. Now, who knows how long it will take? My guess is about 1,000 years. So we have more lives to live on this planet. So the sooner we become in trying to perfect ourselves and helping others around us, the better and the more satisfying it will be for us to be on a planet of regeneration, and on one in which we help move the ball forward. Anyway, I want to say God bless it to everyone, and good night.